Hey, your viewers and viewers, my name is General Red Strategist, and welcome back to Syria Being Hunted. It's time for another podcast-style episode. Mainly, I actually kind of want this episode just to be a little update, that's all, ladies and gentlemen, because there is something interesting on the brain and all that I have, well, on my brain right now, that I can talk about. But, I'll date the video. It's the 26th of June, a Thursday, as I'm going to record this. Obviously, as usual, by the time this video goes out, it'll be a few days later. It might actually even be July, potentially, by the time this video goes out. Maybe? Maybe July? Very, very early July? Maybe. Maybe, maybe not. Or very, very late June. One or the other. But, obviously, in recent days, earlier this week, you will have noticed that there were a couple of days which I didn't upload any videos. So, June the 23rd, Monday, and June the 24th, the Tuesday, I uploaded no videos. And I just basically posted, a community post and all that, just explaining, oh yeah, I'm not going to be posting on those days because I'm a bit busy and all that. Well, I suppose, several days later I can actually say what I was doing, basically now. Yeah, in essence, for anyone who doesn't know, because the thing is, some of you may already know this, if you've been watching, for example, recent Captain Claw episodes, or of course more recently the Dream Core stuff that I've got back to since the release of the third chapter in that game. Yeah, some of you might already potentially be aware, I don't know, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But yeah, earlier this week I was in Rome, ladies and gentlemen, for a couple of days. Basically it was not a holiday or a break or anything like that. It was just, in essence it was a professional commitment with my job, IRL, because I'd had an invitation to go and give a lecture at an institution in Rome, which was really, really good. It's the first time I've ever been to Rome, first time I've ever been to Italy, more generally, so it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to talk about it here, ladies and gentlemen. So basically, I got this invite to deliver this lecture at this institution in Rome, to take place on the 23rd of June, and I accepted. So I started arranging, obviously, my travel arrangements, that sort of thing, way in advance. And in essence, I flew out from the UK, from Bristol Airport, on Sunday 22nd, because the thing is, the lecture was due to take place pretty much in the morning the next day, so I had to basically stay overnight and all that. So went to Bristol Airport, started, set out on the journey just after I'd had lunch, early afternoon. Drove down through Bristol, which was quite something because I've never driven through Bristol before. My sat-nav, of course, ended up taking me right through the city centre, and I've heard, and maybe some people can verify this, that apparently in the UK, one of the worst cities where you can do your driving test is apparently in Bristol, because apparently it's just a spaghetti warren of traffic lights, little roads with multiple lanes that go off in all kinds of directions, and certainly that was the impression I got driving through the city. So I was kind of glad when I got through it, because there were a couple of occasions, certainly on the way to the airport on Sunday the 22nd, when I just found that my sat-nav was trying to direct me onto roads that technically were closed, and that kind of thing, because there was just construction works or whatever going on them. And so it was a bit of a nightmare, because I ended up taking a couple of wrong turns. I had to wait for my sat-nav to recalculate the route, to figure out where I was and where I was trying to go, and what route I needed to take and all that. Which is a right royal pain, ladies and gentlemen, but what can you do? But anyway, so I got through Bristol, drove on, and ended up getting to Bristol Airport within plenty of time, though, which was good. It was very, very good. Fuck you. Get in. There we go. You're just going to have to shoot a few of these guys up, I think. Yeah, so I got to Bristol Airport in time, and basically then just sort of had to kind of hang around a bit, which is always a bit of a pain, but what can you do? Because obviously when you go to airports, you have to obviously set out in plenty of good time in case of traffic, because you always have to leave at least a couple of hours for check-in and getting through security, since the queues always build up, and they get very, very big and all that. So Got to Bristol Airport. Flight basically set out from the UK at 17:35 in the afternoon, 25 to 6 basically, and it was about 2 hour 20-minute flight ish roughly, direct to Rome Fiumicino Airport with EasyJet. So it was relaxing enough. I actually managed to sleep a little bit on the flight, which is one of those things that sometimes is always tricky when you're on a plane. Trying to get 40 winks and all that. But I managed it, at least for a little while. So that took up a bit of the time and all. So then obviously landed in Rome Fiumicino Airport at just after 9 o'clock local time. Got to, through security there, passport control, blah blah blah. Then got a taxi from the airport to the hotel, which is about a 20-minute drive, roughly. Drink more tea. And so I technically, didn't actually get to the hotel until sometime just after 10 o'clock at night. So it was a kind of a, long journey in that sense. But the hotel itself was quite nice, it was good. Breakfast and dinner was pretty much included in the price. There was a bar and everything. But obviously when I arrived there, what I basically just did was I just crashed out in my room and immediately went to bed. Because, I was going to have to get up early in the morning. Which of course I did. Had my breakfast. Got dressed up in my suit. And then the institution I was giving a lecture at was kind enough to send a taxi out to collect myself and a couple of other lecturers who were also visiting. So we all hopped in the taxi together. Were driven down to the destination. And of course gave our lectures in the morning, Q&A panel about midday. And then afterwards we had sort of like an interesting series of discussions in seminar rooms where we were sort of rotated in and out of the rooms across several discussion groups, sort of 20 minutes in each room and all that, which was good. It was good fun, talking to a whole range of people from really all over the world, in essence. So that was pretty awesome. And then, of course, basically, the day effectively kind of ended work-wise by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So then, the institution, once again, arranged a taxi for us to get us all back to the hotel. So I went back there, and because I then technically had the rest of the evening, I basically spent a couple of hours just freshening up in my hotel room. Then I just wandered into Rome, because the hotel I was in was, not far from sort of one of the central areas of the city. So I may well add in a few little videos I took around about now, somewhere there. But I went for a wander in the sort of immediate area of the hotel. Came across the Basilica di Santa Sabina, which basically is, a monastery, a church. And Italian churches are great because basically they're free admission. You can just wander into them and explore, and they are beautiful to look at. So I went in there very briefly, had a look in there, had a look in the sort of like garden that was just outside it, which was pretty awesome. And then from there, I found that there was a road you could actually wander down, which takes you down to the Circo Massimo, or the Circus Maximus, as it's known in English, which, I will be honest, when I went down there, I didn't actually fully realise what it was. I just thought it was, a big public park overlooked by some old Roman ruins. But since getting back from the trip and actually reading up on it, I realised it was more than just a public park, or is more than just a public park, the Circo Massimo. Basically, the history behind it is that in Roman times, what we now call the Circo Massimo was apparently a stadium used by the Romans for chariot racing, which actually makes sense, because if you look at the shape of it, the Circo Massimo, it's like a big, long, really wide sort of depression in the ground that stretches way, way back, and you could just picture ancient Roman athletes riding chariots in it. And of course, the Circo Massimo is overlooked by Palatine Hill, where there's a load of Roman ruins. Again, I'll see if I can flash up some of the brief little video clips I took on my trip while I was there. But sadly, the one thing I didn't get to see was the Colosseo, aka the Colosseum. Because the thing is, looking on Google Maps at where my hotel was, from there to the Colosseum, they're actually fairly close, and theoretically I could have walked it. But the problem is, when I kind of got to the Circo Massimo, what I found was that there was some kind of concert being prepared. So it was like a big stage at one end of the park, and then stretching right back, there was like row upon row upon row of seating and stands being prepared for public viewing and all that. And unfortunately, what it meant was that quite a few of the side streets around it had been closed off, so I couldn't just walk through them, meaning that in order to get to the Colosseo, I would have had to take a bit of a more indirect route and go around, which would have taken longer. And the problem is that Italy, of course, in the height of June, even at 6 o'clock in the evening or whatever, is bloody hot. And so after wandering down to the Circo Massimo and seeing if I could wander around it and not getting any closer really to the Colosseo, it kind of got to the time where I was like, oh god, I've been wandering for a while and I'm really starting to sweat. I'm getting very, very hot, and I feel like I don't want to be trudging around in this heat for too much longer. Especially because, I don't want to get dehydrated or anything. Because the thing is, I had appropriate clothing for wandering, a nice linen shirt and all that, to keep myself, as cool as possible, and sunglasses, and I had obviously sun cream, lathered myself up. But obviously, even with that, you don't want to be trudging through that kind of heat for too long. I mean, hell, that time me and Phil took that trip to Munich, and we went to Dachau, and we wandered from the train station up to the freaking concentration camp. That must have been like a 40-minute walk. And in that heat, wearing jeans and a short sleeve shirt, that friggin' made me so hot that I had a bit of a faint moment when we arrived at the concentration camp memorial site. So I, with that in mind, wandering around in Rome in that heat, I thought, I don't want to be wandering around for too long in this heat. Especially since I forgot to take my bottle of water from the hotel room with me, which was a stupid thing, but yeah. Because, in that kind of heat, really, if you're going to go wandering around places like Rome, you need to take a water bottle with you, at the very least. So you've got something to drink, keep yourself hydrated. So yeah, I was just conscious that I didn't want to, dehydrate myself or anything like that. So I saw the Circo Massimo. I got a view of the, some of the ruins on the Palatine Hill. Didn't get to see the Colosseum, which was just beyond the Palatine Hill. But, well, never mind. Who knows, maybe I'll go back to Rome one day. Because the thing is, like I say, I only really got a few hours in the evening on Monday 23rd to actually do any sort of wandering, sightseeing / exploration. So of course, there's so much to do in Rome that you can see. Just an evening isn't enough. You need really at least a couple of days. In fact, probably more than that. But at least I saw something, What probably would have been disappointing is if I had, say, after giving my lecture and commitments at the institution I was invited to, if, then I'd very much had to travel straight back to the airport and get a flight straight back to the UK. Because then, basically, I would have gone to Rome, but not had a chance to do any sightseeing at all. But fortunately, I didn't do that. I was thinking about doing that at one point, but when I was looking at the flight times back to the UK from Rome, and, the amount of time, obviously, I'd need to get to Rome Fiumicino Airport to fly back, what times the flight would be. Basically, what it meant was that I wouldn't be arriving back in the UK until pretty much very late at night, towards midnight in essence, and then of course add on an hour's road journey from Bristol Airport back to, my flat. It meant that by the time I got home, I would have essentially I'd have got back to my home after in fact way after midnight, probably towards 1 o'clock in the morning. I just thought, oh no, I'm not driving that late. And I'll probably be tired after the flight and all that. So that was the reason why I didn't decide to just fly back straight after the lecture. I decided essentially to stay one more night and then travel back to the UK in the morning of the 24th of June. So that's what I did. Yeah, morning of 24th, got up early, 7 o'clock, taxi back to the airport, and then on the flight at, the flight was supposed to be 25 minutes past 10 in the morning, local time in Italy. It was actually delayed for almost an hour, so actually it was more like 20 past 11 when it took off. But, got back to the UK and then drove back. I was kind of tired by the end of it, but hey, it was a good trip overall, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really enjoyed it. And like I say, Rome, got to go back there. But the one thing, of course, I have realised about Italy is, if you ever travel to places like Rome, or probably to just places in Italy more generally speaking, it's probably best to rely on things like taxis. Because the thing is, official taxis in Italy are decently priced. You know, my journey to and from Fiumicino Airport to my hotel, for example, both there and back, cost between 55 and 60 euros, which is okay. It's decent enough for what it is. So you take plenty of euros with you, you'll be fine. But yes, I absolutely would not want to get a hire car in Rome at the very least, because holy moly, traffic was chaos in that city. Lots of very wide roads with everyone just cutting in and out of each other, basically weaving in and out. I think to myself, I'm so glad that I was reliant there on experienced taxi drivers and not getting a hire car and driving myself. Otherwise that would have been a pain, ladies and gents. That would have been quite difficult. Got more tea. Lovely jubbly. So yeah, that was Red's trip to Rome, ladies and gentlemen. First time, like I say, I've been to Italy. But hopefully not the last. Because the thing is, apart from Rome, as much as I would want to go back there to explore more of it, there are obviously other places in Italy which also would be good to visit. Florence, I think, is a big one that I'd love to go to. My parents have actually been to Florence and they absolutely loved it. Thought it was really, really good. Obviously, everyone also talks about Venice as well. Yeah, Venice would be worth visiting, though I think you'd have to sort of pick your time of the year very carefully when you go there, because obviously it's a very tourist-heavy city at certain times. So one would want to just be a little careful about when they go. Try and get out of, the peak tourist season in Venice. Obviously, go and see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's something else one could have a look at. Obviously, within Rome, there's also the Vatican as well. Can't forget that. Probably well worth visiting. Seeing, St. Mark's Square. Is it St. Mark's Square? Yeah, I think it is. As well as the Basilica. All that stuff. So yes, Italy definitely on the cards to visit again one day. Don't know when necessarily I would do that, but one day it will happen. Ladies and gentlemen. Alright, well, since we come back up to the jetty over here, I think that'll probably do for a little quick podcast style episode and all that. Just to update you on what was going on, what I was actually up to on the 23rd and 24th of June. So hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about the delights of Italy. I would say, even just from my very short visit, Rome is well worth going to, If you're undecided, should I ever visit Rome? The answer is, absolutely, you should do. Ladies and gentlemen, is well worth a visit. Alright, social media links, propagandist channel link, etc, as usual, are down in the video, wang my camera, down the video description and all that. If you enjoyed, a like is of course always appreciated, but other than that, I'm going to sign off now. I was going to say goodbye, but actually I'll say a nice Italian ciao, ladies and gentlemen. See, holes in the fence roundabout. Can I turn that searchlight off if I distract his attention over that? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Go, get it! Get it! Come on! Get it! Ooh! No! Oh, you can't do this to me. Get my torch out, you bastard! Get out! Stop it! I need light. I need to find where I'm going. Fuck off! Where am I going? Oh, I'm going to be out of stamina at this rate. Shit! Just get out of here. Get out.